honored guests and members of the Centrale Debating Club, friends, Parisians, countrymen, dear contestants, I would like to thank you all for coming tonight and to congratulate you for finding your way through the great city of Châtenay-Malabry. It is my pleasure to open the case for the government, and to close it, I am the only speaker. It is my pleasure to open the case for the government on the motion, this House believes that tonight is going to be a good night. You will have, I am sure, experienced several good nights in your lives before coming here. I am sure that you can think of examples. After a hard day's work, you come home, your girlfriend or boyfriend is there, waiting for you. I shall just go from personal experience. She beams at you as you enter, weary and tired, her warm smile wiping the angst and strain from your face as she wraps her thin arms around your sore and aching body. You sit together in each other's arms, watching a romantic comedy. You have a meal rounded off with luxurious Swiss chocolates and washed down with a bottle of French wine. And then comes the moment. She winks at you suggestively. I need to just go and fetch something to live at the evening. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at being a sexy female. No problem, honey, you say, I've just got something to show you. She returns, dressed, let's say, in a slightly different way. You step forward. So does she. And then you pull out your stamp collection, and she marvels at your diverse and rare collection of stamps, and then she opens her dressing gown and reveals her chess set. And then you can play chess with her passionately all night long. I have had many pleasant evenings of the sort, and I am sure that this is also the case for most other engineering students. Well, folks, tonight is going to be even better, because instead of a partner with propositions that do not form a very strong government case, you have an impressive, a brutal, and I hope violent debate to look forward to. But first, let me return to the debate. The two teams in front of you tonight will be judged on 4 equal criteria. First, arguments. How consistent the speech is. Is the speaker easy to follow? How pertinent are his or her examples? Second, presentation. Speaking style, use of rhetorical devices, and of course, the reason why you all came tonight, humor. The third one, is teamwork and strategy, and the first one is the famous star quality. The famous je ne sais quoi that we all enjoy so much. The speeches will last 6 minutes. The first and last minutes are said to be protected time, during which speakers from the other team may not ask points of information to the speaker who has the floor. POIs cannot come from the floor, I'm afraid. The end of the first protected time and beginning of the second protected time will be signaled by bell ringings. So, once the first minute is up, and if the bell girl has not fallen asleep, you will hear this. And at the 5th minute, you will also hear this. 1 minute later, the bell will also ring again to signal the end of the speech. And will be run again at 15 seconds intervals, each time more aggressively if the speaker continues to speak. So, while the debaters will engage in verbal jousting, we hope, not we expect, the audience to take part. If you wish to express your agreement with something that the speaker has said, you are warmly encouraged to shout, "Yeah!" I cannot hear you. Yeah! You shout, "Yeah!" Slightly. And if the speaker's points do not tally fully with your philosophical outlook on life, this one again. So, we have the pleasure tonight to welcome, please, order in the house. We have the pleasure to welcome tonight an all-star jury featuring Stephen Gabelent from Centrale, Marie-Lou Gabriel from INS, and Brian Ferguson from MIM. Two teams are in front of you tonight, but there can be only one team. One team to rule them all. One team to find them. One team to bring them all, and in the darkness, find them. And so, our two teams must now compete against each other in what promises to be a fight to the death. In conclusion, I hope that you have a great evening, and I am sure that with your help, dear audience, dear contestants, tonight is indeed going to be a good night. We now have the pleasure to call upon the first speaker of the government.
Honorable Chairman, delightful bell girl, my lords and ladies of the jury, obsolete opposition, divine government, and roaring citizens of the amphitheater, today you will find yourselves equals. You're all equally blessed, for I have the pride, the privilege, nay, the pleasure of introducing you to a God sired by gods. A God who can trace his lineage back before the Titans. Ladies and gentlemen, though I appear in front of you in the guise of a humble Centralien, do not judge a book by its cover, for I am Zeus, the thunderous, the father of gods and men, and I wish you the most electrifying of evenings. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Like the dodo, like the steam engine, like MySpace, things have their time. Fate has decreed the end of everything, and so it is that fate now turns its steely glare towards the humble book. Ladies and gentlemen, this house believes that books are obsolete. The stories of the Greek gods, the stories of my exploits and those of my brethren here tonight were originally transferred from generation to generation orally by bards. The most famous of these bards was Homer, not Simpson. But however great his art was, these tales were eventually put down on paper, on papyrus actually, much to their chagrin, these bards, who found themselves obsolete.
What's the information?
But, sorry, I don't have time. But only in this way could these tales rise from their origins and go on to create Western civilization. We humble gods consider a book to be a physical object, a tool of mortals, tree-based artifacts.
On that point, sir.
Which the Oxford English Dictionary, online version, of course, defines as sheets of paper sewn or glued together. Yes, sir. Would you like to contest that definition?
No, sir.
I have no time for you. New media,
Yes, sir. I am wondering, would you rather have for Christmas a hard copy version of the book Debating for Dummies, or a digital version of that book, please, sir?
Would I rather read a digital or a hardcover?
Yeah.
I'm in the process of reading Game of Thrones on my iPhone right now. It's much more practical. I can read it on the bus, on the metro, all the time, and I never lose it. And which brings me to my next point. E-books, audiobooks, are completely different from hard copy books. Because today, sorry, I do not have the time. Today, ladies and gentlemen, although the medium may not be the message, it most certainly shapes the message. And once the medium has changed, so too has the entire experience. My divine colleagues will show you how this changes for the better. Humanity always seeks to find the best medium for the best possible experience. Just as the humble lightning bolt creates an environment by its mere presence, so too can a book, but also a computer, a smile on our charming bell girl's face. Books have changed the lives of many people and made them who they are today. But ladies and gentlemen, the narrative of our world is one of constant change, with two main protagonists, innovation and obsolescence. And the nature of their relationship is creative destruction. Innovation is what drives forward our civilization. The superseded may hang on for some time, acquiring an antiquarian or niche status, but it is no longer at the leading edge of society's progress. This is what obsolete means. I'm really sorry. I would like to take your point of information, but I don't have it. As I finish, you'll see why I don't have the time. Books were for recording information, but every other device can now do that. They were a way of protecting and conserving, a veritable guardian of civilization, but now we have USBs and the cloud. They were vectors of knowledge and societal evolution, but now we have social media that does exactly that. They were our main source of entertainment before PlayStations, computers, TVs, and cat videos. It is the roles books have served and the content they mediated which have been essential to our civilizations, but not the objects themselves. Yes, sir, I may try. I'll try to take this point of information.
Did you educate yourself through PlayStation and GameCube?
No. Unfortunately, I had to suffer through hard copy books, which is what Hercules will tell you about later on. My colleagues will demonstrate that emerging dematerialized forms can, will, and do serve the same essential roles historically accorded to books, far better than books actually can. To show you this, we have summoned, from the heights of Mount Olympus, the mighty gods of Greece. We're all here in the great metropolis of Châtenay-Malabry thanks to Centrale's epic exchange program. Apollo, my son, who chose the form of a beautiful and intelligent woman. We're going to have to talk about that later, Apollo. She will show you how the role of books has changed as they've been superseded by media. Then will come Hermes, who embraces the dematerialized world as a realm of socialization, organization, and democracy. He will present new media as a substitute of books in leading civilizational evolution. Hercules, knocked about by the traditional forms of education, will share his discovery that other forms of learning are possible. And finally, Hades will remind us that obsolescence does not imply death, before showing that the opposition is beyond redemption. Ladies and gentlemen, let us by all means take a moment's silence to mourn the passing of books, but let us by no means make a fetish out of these bits of dead tree. Yes, we grant you, it is in many ways a sad moment to see the passing of books. We bring you this evening glad tidings. Throw off your trepidation, rekindle your enthusiasm, turn the page, and propose this motion.
The leader of the opposition, Mr. THBT.
Does this work? Yes? Okay. Honorable Mr. Chairman, exquisite bell girl, distinguished members of the jury, mechanical members of the government.
Dear Chairman and jury, Apollo greets you. Belger, shall I compare you to a summer's day? Dear opposition, roses are red, violets are blue, books are obsolete, and so are you. Dad, yes, I might have something to tell you later. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the poetic populace, good evening to you But Zeus has commanded me to tell you two things. Firstly, why the role of an object changes as it becomes obsolete. And secondly, why the essence, the spirit of literature lives on, even with the disappearance of physical book. But let me start with some rebuttal. No, sir, I don't imagine Barack Obama swearing on an iPad, because the printed Bible is a symbol. Yes, a symbol. But tell me, what is important? Is it the Bible, is it a symbol, or the content of the Bible? Obviously, it is the content. Hidden into the shell. And also, shall I remind you that book have never been there for millions of years, as you said. You should rather go on the online Encyclopedia Britannica and to look back at your history lessons. Just as my father Zeus has said, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. Books have been surpassed in convenience and practicality. They are now obsolete. In today's dematerialized world, we are not saying that books are not or will not continue to be used. No, what we are saying is that as something becomes obsolete, its role evolves. Obsolete technology can hang around. No, please let me finish. Can hang around for a very long time, but its value changes. It becomes sentimental.
Yes. As a god of poetry, do you remember the words of Shakespeare? And did he write to be or not to be, or to become or not to become?
Did I see the relation with the books are obsolete? Sorry. In the same way, books are collected. They are celebrated for their past instead of being the leading edge, heralding the future. Indeed, they still decorate our homes, and yes, they swear in precedents. My dear mortals, let me come to my second point. The digital revolution has most certainly taken place, yes. And you may ask, do we not risk losing the profound sense, the profound pleasure from immersing ourselves in a novel? I say no. No, we don't. Non-material media makes the experience even more enjoyable as we get to be part of a community of readers. And with this community of readers, later please, and with this community of readers, we share our thoughts, we share our dreams, we share our hopes everywhere and with everyone. And in the case of the 50 Shades of Grey, we might even share something more.
What community is that when you can't pass your book to your child?
Here, here.
Yeah.
I can pass an e-book. It's exactly the same because the content is the same. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a wonderful experience. For to be isolated alone with a great author is a great thing. Many have had their life changed by books. Books such as The Diary of Anne Frank or Twilight, for instance. But now, we can change the society. The society, yes, ladies and gentlemen, instead of just changing individuals. Here, we lose the colors of the paper. Just as Just as the carrots of the horse was replaced by the carrots of a Ferrari. In this transition, some things will be lost, but much more will be gained, ladies and gentlemen, because digital media provides an even richer experience, an experience no longer restricted to those who can find a physical copy of a book. Instead, it is now available to the global community, to you all, ladies and gentlemen. And to use a soon-to-be obsolete metaphor, we need to turn the page. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be foolish to remain bound, beholden, or even burdened by books, the relics of a dying age. Dematerialization provides so many other opportunities. Books have changed life and saved people. But if life were changed individually, now they are changed collectively. Ernest will go even further and show you that by enhancing the way we access and communicate information in today's fast-paced world, dematerialized media have replaced book as the leading vector of societal change. Ladies and gentlemen, I particularly beg to propose this motion.
Thank you, Ms. Beauty, for this much-needed feminine presence. And I would now like to call upon the second speaker of the opposition, Mr. Adrien Bilal.
Sharp chairman, venerated judges, welcome to the club. Amusing opposition, amused government. Dear audience, good evening. I am Hermes, messenger of the gods. I have flown in here today to do what I do best. You guessed it, deliver a message. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got mail. But first, let me present a few instant messages of rebuttal. Yes, we do read on paper notes, but this venerable but somewhat dusty institution insists we use paper. And then you will have access to an online version of this debate, even though you will not have access to a printed version. So enjoy it and go on the website. When we were young, we all enjoyed Lord of the Rings. We all enjoyed Harry Potter. Well, dear opposition, did you know that J.K. Rowling was rejected from being published 12 times? 12 times! What would we do without Harry Potter? Yes, there is this heavy infrastructure with printing press, and that's why we believe in this digital version, because it's much more lighter. It's much lighter. And you can have access to all this. But what I'm really here for, what I'm really here for,
the demand of point of information from our family.
Sorry, he's just too small. I couldn't see him on that side. But can we proceed?
Please continue.
Now, what I'm really here for is to tell you about the springtime, the birds and the bees. Instead of flying around the world, I now surf on the internet. And in my travels, I have seen great things. Ladies and gentlemen, we once read the omens of the future in the flight of birds. Now we listen to their tweets. And how beautiful they are at springtime. Yes, pointless twittering. Pointless, but strong enough to bring down tyranny. Where bad guys once burned books, they now try to turn off the internet. And instead of fire, they use firewalls. Ladies and gentlemen, let me fly you back through time and space to Africa. Just a few years ago, people were filled with fear, weighed down by the books of experts who believed that nothing would ever change. Now look. It's not perfect, but in place of a decades-long winter, there are the green shoots of spring.
Point of information, sir.
And what was at the origin of this thought? Would you like to comment on that?
Would you not say that the highest offense you can do on any religion is to burn the holy book of this religion?
Yes, sir, burn the holy book, but again, it's about the contents, not about the book itself. And what was at the origin of this thought? Let me tell you. The 2.0 revolution. Out of the multitude of ways that social media contributed, I will highlight only two. Firstly, its anonymity, rapidity, and efficiency. And secondly, its capacity for instantly reaching a global audience.
I have a
How
question,
can you
sir.
revolt if you're alone, sir? How can you revolt alone in this amphitheater?
Yes, you are talking about a lot of times. You define the word book and the word obsolete. What is the meaning of the word R for you?
R is just the past tense, sir. It's meaningless. It's obsolete. It's obsolete, sir. How was it that we saw the images of thousands in the squares? How did they know where to go or when to flee? Revolutionaries once met in libraries, but now they meet online. Social media allowed them to create a safe community where they shared not just ideas, but also emotions, and all that in mere minutes. This is part of the organizational power of anonymous communication. The power of the 140-character tweet toppled the mighty Mubarak. And the really great thing about our growing internet population is that there are way too many people to persecute. Safety in numbers. Once they stopped thinking as individuals
Point of information,
and
sir.
started thinking as a group, sorry. Change became possible. As Well Gone, the Google executive who helped spark the Egyptian revolution, said, "Our revolution is like Wikipedia. Everyone is contributing content, but you don't know the names of the people." Revolution 2.0 in Egypt was exactly the same. Everyone contributing bits and pieces. I'm sorry for taking time. Books didn't bring the Syrians' lament to our living rooms. YouTube and Twitter did. I am the messenger of the gods, but even I could not have brought word to so many people so quickly. It's enough to make me feel obsolete. Virtual media is revolutionizing the way we connect. It is annihilating oppressors, deposing despots, and terrifying tyrants. Books once valiantly led civilizational change, but we hold the new model of political liberation at our fingertips. Throughout history, books are persecuted and censored because they liberated and spread the bold truth, enlightening countless minds and souls. But today's quick-paced society relies on dematerialized media, where accessing, spreading, and preserving this information is all too easy and fun. iPad, YouTube, eBay, and we all play tennis together without books, which not only serve the sentimental value poetically described by Apollo. Ladies and gentlemen, unite to fight tyranny and propose this motion.
Cool red-scarfed chairman, just and fair jury, bountifully beautiful and very much acclaimed bell girl, puny opposition, terrific team, and you, admirable audience, good evening. My name, you all know it, is Hercules. In days long gone by, I proved myself by performing 12 unpleasant tasks. Well, tonight, for you, I have only 2, to show you why they are wrong and why we are right. Books are obsolete. First, honorable member of the opposition, I As a formal school dropout, I understand, but I don't think you paid much attention to what we said. You didn't seem to catch our definition of obsolete. We said that books are obsolete. Doesn't mean that they are going to disappear just yet. Books are obsolete means that they have been surpassed, as Apollo said very well. Books are obsolete means that they are no longer the cutting edge of change. They are no longer the driving force. They're no longer what is important, the most important part today. And I have, as a former school dropout, I also have one advice for you. Stop smelling books and start reading them. And many people did. When I was young, Hercules, poor little schoolboy Hercules, and not the Hunchules you see before you today, the teachers gave me books to read and math to do, and the numbers just went swimming in front of my eyes. You may say, and many people did, that I liked dedication, but rigor and discipline are good for the rigorous and disciplined people. The others are just left behind or stigmatized. Your former professor, my dear polytechnicians, a certain Poisson, said that life was good for only two things: doing mathematics and teaching mathematics. Where does this rigidity leave those like me, huh? Up a creek without a paddle. That's where I always thought this Poisson guy was a bit fishy. We know that your military education instructs you to leave no man behind. Well, tonight, young men, I expect nothing less from you. Leave no children behind. Please.
Can you compare the cost of an iPad to that of a book?
Can you compare the cost of 1,000 books your iPad can read to an entire library? To a friend of mine, Salman Khan, the dean of the Khan Foundation. I say friend of mine, because although we've never actually met, I need an appropriate term for the man who finally taught me how to multiply, by saying, now let's multiply. M-U-L-T-I, ply. Multiply. Now, Salman was actually a smart guy, an MIT graduate, a hedge fund analyst, but deep inside he was a real family guy. And he couldn't help but be moved by the plight of his young cousin Nadia, who was having trouble doing her math at school. So what did he do? Did he take out his grand big old math textbook from the MIT? No! He took out his computer and created some bite-sized lessons. He then realized that it was easier to put them just on the internet, on YouTube. And then not only did Nadia's scores improve greatly, but also that of the hundreds, the thousands, the hundreds of thousands, and the hundreds of millions today of despaired and despairing children that are now using him.
Please, are you meaning that the papers of Poisson that you admire that much are obsolete?
No. Books. We didn't say. The notion is not knowledge is obsolete. It's books, the physical container is obsolete. You definitely need some after school work. So, and now, thanks to this man, to this Mr. Khan, all those millions of children all over the world who never thought learning was from them, well, now they con. So, what was it about this Khan Academy that worked? Well, everything a book cannot give you. Vivid and colorful motion, interaction, instant replay, and a reassuring, calm voice. Salman understood what he had created. He threw out his hedge fund job and threw himself into the not-for-profit global movement he created. His work has now been translated into more than 20 languages by volunteers and is supported by Bill Gates, Carlos Slim, and Google. Now, in my time, alas, there was no Salman Khan on Mount Olympus. And to gain acceptance, I had to build up my muscles. But alas, there was one special muscle I really wanted to pump up. One sensitive muscle. Yeah, you guessed it. my brain. What this brain tells me is to turn the page and close the book. In regional areas or developing countries, online education opens the door to yearn for opportunities. For those who most want it, education is being transformed. Educating Africa, as you mentioned, once meant sending over missionaries with a Bible. Now it's more one laptop per child. On behalf of him, on behalf of all children, young and old, who don't fit into the traditional bookish education system, I beg you to propose the motion.
Esteemed and affable members of the government, equally esteemed and hopefully more bookwormish members of the jury, my fellow comrades, dear Chairman, dear Belgaro, ladies and gentlemen. As a child, you learned your ABCs from brightly covered books. A little older, you discovered magic, knights, hobbits and elves from novels I don't even need to name. Older still, you perhaps felt the passion behind powerful works such as Stendhal's The Red and the Black. I know I did. This child has now grown up and has other readings, but he still remembers those past. Dr. Seuss once famously said that adults are obsolete children, but as long as our inner child remembers his roots, his books we never need be. We never need forget the bright images of our children's books. We never must forget what the humble book adds to our memories. Now, one might say that alternate forms of reading are modern, convenient, and to a certain extent democratic. And indeed they are modern, convenient, and to a certain extent democratic, but they will not replace books. We, in the opposition, believe in e-books, but we do not believe that they will ever banish paper books to oblivion. We, my friends...
On that point, sir.
No, thank you, sir. We, my friends... We, my friends, are emotional creatures. This brings us together. This defines us. And this also defines what we seek in life. And we, my friends, we seek books. Not because they embody some sort of technological perfection by allowing us to store our life's worth of reading, but because they can store and become identified with one and only one of the stories precious to our hearts. Opening the book of our childhood opens the book to our childhood, bringing back flows of memories long lost. The pencil notes in the margin of an interesting passage, the folded pages, the bookmarks, which remind you of the most vivid moments. They are tributes to the physical pleasure of reading a book.
Point, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes. Wasn't there physical pleasure in riding a horse? In cars.
To be entirely honest, saying that we don't ride horses anymore is kind of like saying that an entire group of people doing the sport and a recent movie to be soon published are obsolete. There you have it, in one beautiful yet simple idea. Motion against immobility. Time and evolution against permanence and memories. Not all can be and should be cast away in the name of progress. Some evolution is necessary, even in the field of culture. And we have rightfully forsaken the obsolete cassette in favor of CDs, flash drives, other modes of storage. But we will never abandon theater in favor of cinema. There is something oddly eternal about living actors delivering their art. There is something emotional, and this also applies to the prized book. I ask you now, members of
No, thank you, sir. I ask you now, members of the government, what do you feel when you are in a cathedral? You are surrounded by ancient architectures, statues and carvings, depicting people long departed. There is an element of fear, or at least an element of solemn silence. There is also, my friends, an element of respect. Respect for all those who have lived before us, who have thought before us. And I have the same impression when I'm in an ancient library. The old tones encircle me, and I feel brought back to the time of their conception. It is a happy cathedral, full of hopeful memories. Yes, please, sir?
Yes, and in that library, how do you find that one book that you're looking for? Do you not spend hours searching for it?
Indeed, I will not deny that an e-book can give fast access to documents, but there is also pleasure. There is also pleasure in the searching for a book. Is not a place to worship stale ideas, but it is rather a place to create new ones, much in the way we continue to build new cathedrals. The power of a solemn assembly of books will never wane. A book has value because it cannot be changed. It cannot be wiped, its story replaced with another. The story is tied to the medium. Sometimes, my friends, stories have to be written into stone, and it is precisely this projection of motion that gives them value. Before we turn another page in this debate, let me tell you a story adapted from one of the oldest books we have. Moses is coming down from Mount Sinai. He is holding in his hands stone tables containing the 10 Commandments. Except this time, there is a twist. He tells you the version of the commandments can be freely updated online because he doesn't hand you a table. He hands you an iPad. So, your neighbor has a wonderful golden necklace which you desire. So you go online and edit Wikipedia. The 8th commandment now reads, "Thou shalt not steal unless you really want to." It's pretty good looking as well. So, a commandment becomes, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife unless she is really hot." Do these eternal words still have power now? Members of the jury, I come before you not with a demand, but with a plea. By accepting the role of books as a caretaker of memories, you are not only preserving one of our most powerful creations, you are saving the emotions and history behind that creation. To kindle is to light a fire, and as my colleague Abdullah said, the newest Amazon product is called fire. These are the forthcoming ashes of our passion, our values. Ladies and gentlemen, history has shown us what happens when we burn books. Thank you. One look into your eyes and I already feel obsolete. Deathly opposition, deadly team. Dear audience, good evening. I am Hades, Lord of the Dead. Yet, I am not here to take away your souls. Yet. This debate has brought me to question 3 things about my sad life. First, I am here to give a lesson in grammar, apparently. Second, I am here to give a lesson in history. And finally, I must give a lesson in culture. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be Greek gods, but apparently they too have decidedly something Greek in them. Their arguments are utterly bankrupt. You don't believe me? Okay. Seriously, raising the point of order. You wanted order? Here it is. Ladies and
Point of information.
This debate, no thank you, has come down to three things. Firstly, it has come down to how much we enjoy books and how that relates to them being obsolete. Therefore, the definition that we gave tonight was clearly not understood by our colleagues in the opposition. Their feeble attempts to introduce a Trojan horse into our solidly defended case fooled no one. Now, let us turn to their Achilles heel. Ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker firstly confused books with something that has been here forever. I mean, he said that books have been here forever. Well, dear sir, I must ask you, what was a tablet good for back then? And what is a tablet good for today? A tablet was good back then to write on it because paper was not available. Correct me if I'm wrong, but today a tablet is used for every single thing that a book was technically used for.
Point of information.
So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, literature, philosophy, and culture are universal. Divinely ordained truths for the constantly evolving medium of communication. Books are mortal, but the ideas that they express are immortal. They are divinely ordained, and they will continue to exist until the end of humankind. So do not fear, ladies and gentlemen. Books were merely the shell in which our great knowledge was held. And there was a widespread of technostalgia that we see here tonight, seeking to preserve the old ways that have forever held us back.
What of information?
They have helped us get through history, but today they are something. There's something much better replacing them, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, as the tree of knowledge grew, we used its bark to make books. But now, men's spring has to come. Let us use its freshest fruit, the apple. Now, Zeus clearly defined something which is obsolete as something that is not necessarily not used anymore. We still use books for the emotional weight that they carry, the emotional role that they play. But what they were initially created for is no longer what they serve up. I mean, okay, you might enjoy looking for a book in a library, and you might enjoy smelling it.
I have a question, sir.
No, sir, I'm directing this one to you. Just sit down. And you might enjoy. You might enjoy touching a book. Sit down, sir. You might enjoy touching a book. If you'd like it second, we'll give you a second to enjoy your fetish, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, three crash points of this debate. First of all, emotional impact. Now, Julia has shown you that the purpose of a book today is cultural. It's purely to help us get comfortable at night, cozy in our beds, and that its initial role of helping us spread information is obsolete. That is why books are obsolete. We never said that books are no longer used, ladies and gentlemen. We only said that books no longer serve the initial purpose they were created for. Abdullah and Bilal, they gave us a lesson in grammar. They said that books are not obsolete today because they are still being used. But clearly, thanks to our definition, we have shown you that books are still being used, but they are obsolete. They no longer lead innovation. Please, they no longer lead our route to evolution, to revolution, as Olivier has shown you. Ladies and gentlemen, and finally, books are no longer the way to educate our children. They are no longer the model. New learning ways. Yes, we can, ladies and gentlemen. Books are simply surpassed. They are obsolete in education, in social activism, and even in the magical art of reading, ladies and gentlemen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, as we read an ebook, we can share with the community of the world every single experience. Therefore, books which only helped us get enriched and change individually, are now helping us as a community. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, books have become obsolete. It is time to turn the page and to close the book, ladies and gentlemen. We beg you to propose. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, oblivious machines of the government pardon us of being so human and not very godly as you are. Comrades of the opposition, lovely timekeeper, ladies and gentlemen, when along this debate were the members of our government replaced by robots, we, the opposition, men of flesh and blood, refuse to see the world vanishing as it melts digital in a moment under our material fingers. We would still like to feel, we would still like to touch, to smell, to taste. We'd still like to be men with the full use of our 5 senses. Not in terms of ones and zeros. We'd still like to remember about our cultural heritage. And as my wise comrade Adrian pointed out, books allow us to possess within the reach of our bare hands the infinite wisdom of mankind. Books, and I can still hear Adrian's word echoing at this point. Books allow us to keep alive the mighty ghosts of our written past. Let me apologize deeply for the government's rudest behavior tonight. Not only did they trample underfoot the idea that books could still multiply, M-U-E-L-T-I-P-L-A, that books could still multiply our own accumulated knowledge, but they also walked carelessly upon the memory of one of your own ancients, people from Centrale. What would he say indeed? What would Boris Vian say if he was sitting right here tonight? And Mr. Debaillon Vest, that Twitter has replaced the fine sound of real birds tweeting. No, ladies and gentlemen, Boris Vian would be on our side, on the opposition side. Now what my dear friend Centrale opened our eyes on is that while saying that the digital revolution has taken place and that books have been surpassed, as Ms. Guidi said, the government is forbidding 80% of the world's population from getting contents available for us, whereas developed citizens. No, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, what this government is doing. To tell you is that the motion that they were defending tonight was not books are obsolete, but rather that they were obsolete for them. On the contrary, we care strongly about those people, and we feel that for sure they would disagree with the government and say that books are far from old wave. In fact, they would surely be flabbergasted to see Mr. Merlin dare say that change is always for the better and that he had to suffer his education through hardcover books. And this is precisely what we heard in my colleague Tristan's speech. The very notion of obsolete should prevent the government from sustaining such absurd and nonsensical motion and arguing that on the basis of a wrong definition of obsolete. Let me remind you. I'll just give you the definition before your question. On the basis of a wrong definition. Here's the Oxford definition. Fallen out of use. Did books fall out of use, mister?
Yes, indeed.
First of all, you think books is ad hominem attacks. Do you feel good about that? You say books are obsolete because they're still used. Yes. Do you know America's flint makers make over 1 million arrowheads and spearheads every year?
Here. I don't think that America is the greatest example to argue in favor. E-books, on the contrary, are not the same thing. They are not the real thing. They're like Canada Dry. They look like alcohol, they smell like alcohol, but they taste like shampoo. E-books are not the real thing. They're just a paid artifact. They're like not being with a real woman. They're like having sex with a plastic doll. Ladies and gentlemen, they cannot ever make book obsolete because, thank you, Tristan, they won't ever be able to replace them. Now we are not, and I want to say this very clearly since the government would have you believe otherwise. We are not against technological progress, but this is not the point tonight, yes?
Yes,
oh, I'm sorry. Tonight, you government process machines have failed to show that e-books had successfully wiped out hard copies, and how could you? They did not. Tonight, let us agree that books are not from the newest wave, but that this debate is not about whether reading on a Kindle is better or worse than reading a brick-and-mortar book. It is about the material world. It is about flesh, blood. It is about living our lives as human beings and not as robots. It is about the feeling that you get when Romeo and Juliet kiss for the first time and the feeling that you get when they die afterwards. It is about the life-changing experience of flipping the last page. Reading the very last word of your novel, the final dot, and boom, the end. In my prophetic collection, there was the book. Well, in the end, ladies and gentlemen, there will still be books. Books are not new wave, but neither are they old wave. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, timekeeper, members of the jury, books are permanent wave.
Thank you very much for this fine speech. Plastic dolls, book smelling, engineers sure had very interesting sexual practices. But now the debate is over and the jury is going to deliberate. And the floor is now to the audience. Feel free, you are very much welcome to ask questions to the participants tonight. Thank you very much.
Questions from the audience?
I have a question.